Hello everyone and welcome to an ESO build video. Today we are covering the channel's first PvP build, the Hex-Blade, otherwise known as a Stamina Sorcerer. So, one thing I just want to go over before we get started, this is a non-CP build. It does work in champion-enabled environments, but I haven't set up a CP layout, I haven't personally played it much there, so I won't be including that section in this video. In future iterations I might, but for now this is a non-CP build through and through. Anyways, with that out of the way, let's get into it. So, figuring we'll start with the stats as most builds do. We are rocking 15.5k max magic, 20.4k max health, and just shy of 30k max stam. So overall, well-rounded stats. As you can see, unbuffed, we're sitting at 2800 weapon damage. We got 1500 stam recovery. The really other stats here are not very important overall. Our resists are pretty classic for medium armor, squishy. And yeah. So going through here, we do have the Serpent Mundus Stone. If you're a Wood Elf, you would replace this with the Warrior. Just throwing out there. I'll go over races later though. We are a Werewolf, though I'm not using anything from it. I don't even have the ultimate slotted, so you can ignore this. And we are using Tri-Stat Food. Believe it or not, on a stamina build. We are not using Dubious. Tri-Stat Food is amazing on stamina sorcerers. It gives us a lot of magic utility. Alright. So with this little portion here, let's move into the actual gear. So for gear, we've chosen my favorite PvP monster set in the game, Bloodspawn. Technically speaking, this should be a heavy helmet. I don't have one on hand, so we're in 6 medium, 1 heavy, though I'd prefer 2 heavy. Anyway. Everything's impenetrable. We got triglyphs on the big pieces and stamina on the small pieces. But yeah, 1 heavy Bloodspawn, 1 medium. On the body, we are wearing Briarheart. Briarheart's freaking amazing on Stamina Sorcerer. Let me just get that out of the way for real quick. They have fantastic uptime on this set. They proc it just constantly due to the amount of dots around them. It gives a really nice boost to weapon damage for 10 seconds. And it synergizes really well with the crit healing the class already has. Honestly, this is my favorite set for them. Were I to replace this, it would probably be with Hundings. I would probably replace this with Hundings if I wanted to, but Briarheart works perfect for me. And for our front bar set, we are running Spriggans. Now, why Spriggans? And more importantly, anywho, we needed a front bar set that worked really well and synergize well with high burst damage. Let me kill this monster real quick, because this guy's going to so come screw me up here in a minute. Not screw, just Dawnbreaker him. Die. Die. They didn't realize something could spawn here. Anywho. Anyway, we're using Spriggans on the jewelry, specifically with a Nerd-honed Maul on the front bar. That's a lot of physical penetration. Understand how a maul works. It takes 20% off the target's resist, whatever's remaining. So, between the physical pen from this and the maul, we're sitting about on average against a tankier target, you can expect somewhere between 6,000 to 8,000 penetration from this build. Very, very good, and that is not including if major fracture supplied from some other source. We don't have one, but people in our group might. Anywho, but the reason we chose Sprig is we needed something front barable. We needed something specifically front barable because our back bar set is Black Rose. The Black Rose dual wield is phenomenal on a kiting based class. Major protection for 3 seconds after activating our Quick Cloak. So, Quick Cloak gives us major expeditions for 3 seconds, now major protection for 3 seconds, and major evasion for 15 seconds. Truly, it is just an amazing skill, and it helps contribute to Briarheart's uptime. So, all in all, fantastic back bar set. I love it. You don't need the Perfected. I don't have it. I think the Perfected just adds like an extra 100 stam recovery, something along those lines. So you don't need it, but if you have it, great. Oh, God, we're under attack. No. Let me get my buffs up here. Sorry for the interruptions, boys. Problem that happens when you film in a PvP zone, I suppose. But anyway, you guys get to see the playstyle a little bit, which is good. Why are we stuck? What the hell are we stuck on? I couldn't move. Anywho, let me kill this guy, dude. Come on, man. I'm recording here. Come on. Why is my stuff not working? Like, half my abilities are just not working here. Come on, Stamden. Dude, come on. Get over here. You attacked me. Come here. Dude. No. What is glitching me out? Look at this. Look at this. I'm not rooted. I'm not stunned. Alright. Anywho, I'm just gonna let this guy kill me. Honestly, and continue on with the build here because this is taking too long. So we got a stam recovery glyph on one of our jewelry. Stam recovery, weapon damage. That's the enchant there. Berserker enchant on our front bar. Poison and disease enchant on our back bar. Ideally these would be axes. The reason they're not is because I'm too lazy to farm them. So for now we have a mace and a sword, but ideally you'd want an axe back here. Alright, so that is it for the gear. So let us move into skills. Now I'm just going to release and pop down into the sewers, and I will go over the skills because I'm not going to risk fighting more PvP. Sorry about that, guys. Oh, man. Anyway, at least you guys got to see a little bit of how it would duel if the game wasn't glitching there for some reason. Probably just going to have to cut out this loading screen. There we go. Alright. So, for our front bar skills, we are starting off with Carve, a cleave morph. It's really freaking good. So, swing in a conal in front of you. It's every single thing in that little cone. Let me fix my weapon. Gotta love the loading screen bug. Just remember, guys, it's a feature. Sorry. So, we got Carve. Puts a nice little dot on our opponents and does enemy damage to everything in front of us. Overall, it's a really good skill. This is basically your spammable. Our next skill on the block is Streak. Now, this serves 3 functions, believe it or not. This skill is really, really versatile. 1, it is our gap closer to an enemy. It is our retreat tool. And it is our class stun. So, we are using this for everything. Constantly during a fight, because I primarily play in Battlegrounds, using this as a class stun, you will roll dodge away from the opponent and immediately streak into them. This will stun them and put you right on top of them. So I often save this for when I'm dodging a particularly nasty combo and then streak right on top of them. Our third skill on the bar is Vigor, our, classic heal for any stamina tune. I personally love this. I keep this on the front bar mostly because I'm a little bad about being squishy and not having a heal on both of my bars. So this is here to help me out with that. But if you're comfortable with it, you could throw this on your back bar for something. I'll look on the back and see what can be put here. But I like Vigor on the front bar. For our primary execute, we are using Executioner. I do prefer this over Reverse Slice for this particular character because we have so much burst. Our primary goal as this character is to wreak havoc and you just wipe people out. You're not there for the long fight. You're not meant to sustain through it. You're just meant to wipe someone out and get the hell out. So Executioner helps us do this. You could run Reverse Slice if you'd prefer. It doesn't really matter. The difference is minimal. I just prefer Executioner for this. For Momentum, very, very classic. Again, on every stamina tune. Gives major brutality. Gives us a small heal over time. And gives us 4 seconds of immobilization immunity. Super, super good skill. I can't live without it on this character. And for our front bar ultimate, and by far favorite skill for this class. It's not even a class skill, but whatever. Dawnbreaker Smiting. Basically, you just wipe out everything in front of you with that. And stuns them, does a ton of burst damage, puts a dot on them. Really, really, really good skill. It's super cheap, only costs us 107 ultimate. We have alt gen due to blood spawn, so we have this up all the time. It's a very good skill, and on top of that, it gives us passively, just for having it slotted, 3% more damage from, or more weapon damage for having it slotted. And we get 20% more damage with this against undead, Daedra, or werewolves. Yeah, eat your heart out, monsters. Alright, so for the back bar skills, we have chosen Hurricane for our classic buff, our classic armor buff. Puts a nice little dot around us, that little Hurricane. Gives us our armor buffs, gives us Minor Expedition, making us faster than every other class in the game just by standard. And it really helps contribute again to Briarheart's uptime. Very good skill in general. You want to keep this up at all times if able. It does have a very short duration, so you're going to be spamming this quite a bit. Often what I do is I pair this uptime with casting Blade Cloak. Because, on to the next skill. An identical duration, Blade Cloak lasts 15 seconds, gives us major evasion for that time period, puts a dot around us that pulses every 3 seconds. By the way, this procs our back bar enchants, or poison if we have a poison back there. Super helpful, helps us keep the poison and disease status effect up, and gives us major expedition for 4 seconds. And thanks to our Black Rose, 3 seconds of major protection, which is this little blue cloud that's floating around us is the major protections. That's how you know you have it up, without having to, like, count it out. Third skill on the bar, we are running Dark Deal. This is the mother of all sustain. I love this skill. So, restores 8,000 health, 3,600 stamina instantly, and an additional 2,400 stamina over 20 seconds. Only costs 2,300 mana. Basically, you're going to pop this before you go into a fight to get the recovery bonus. And you're going to spam this whenever able. Literally, feel free to spam this all day long. Line of sight, get some distance between you and them. You know, pop this up. Often during a fight, you might streak around a corner temporarily, pop this once, and get right back in the fray. It's a really, really good skill. You can't really substitute it as your main heal because it has a cast time. But it's a really good skill. It keeps your resources up. This is how I play with such low recovery and why I'm very, very comfortable with the recovery I'm at. Next up on the bar is Blood Craze. So, deals some damage, puts a nice bleed on people, and gives us a heal over time. It's a very classic skill for dual wield stamina. I like it a lot. Your main combo for hitting people will be to hit Blood Craze and Carve on them. You want to stack both these bleeds on the same target. That's kind of why you want back bar axes, in my opinion, because you'd be able to stack a third bleed onto that mess. Anywho. And for our final skill, we are running Crit Surge. Now, this is the one part of my build I'm not satisfied about. I have 2 sources of major brutality, but that's not what we're slotting either of these skills. This one gives you immobilization immunity. This one gives you some seriously powerful healing. 3,000 health every time you crit. This can occur once every second. This is vigor ticking at all times, basically. You walk anywhere near a fight, you have a vigor running at all times. It's beautiful. So keep this up 100% of the time. It has over a 30-second duration. It's very, very easy to keep up. Yeah, there's really nothing else to say here. This is what allows me to, again, be so squishy because I just have so much incoming healing. And finally on our back bar is Temporal Guard. I'm not going to lie to you, I almost never activate this ultimate. It tends to be a little bugged. And honestly, I'd rather just Dawnbreak people than use this. But if you are in a bad situation, this can get you out of it. I've actually juked some people very wow, the stuttering. I have juked some people fabulously with this skill. It's lovely. But the main reason it's actually here is the minor protection. 8% damage mitigation is very, very nice. It helps, again, with the fact that we have, like, no resists. This keeps us up. But that is it for the skills. And wow. Anyway, we're going to go over some passives that might be important to you guys. So I'm just going to scroll through these and find them for you, because those are the primary skills I have slotted. Reduce the cost of your stamina magic by 5%. Very, very good. This means nothing to you. This passive does nothing for you. Blocking attack, your next magic and stamina ability costs 15% less. Very, very good skill here. I do weave blocks quite frequently. I don't mean to, but I do it accidentally. So this helps keep your abilities cheaper. Just remember you have it there in case you're paying attention. And when you cast a dark magic ability, grant minor prophecy to you and your group. This really does nothing for you, but, you know, casting Dark Deal does buff your group, so there you go. Daedric Summoning. This passive is worthless to you. This passive reduces the cost of your ultimates. Pick this up immediately. Increase your health and stamina recovery by 20% while you have a Daedric Summoning ability slotted. Now, as you can see, I don't. But another common bar layout I used to use would be to throw this on the back bar, so I could get that extra recovery. I've also seen a lot of people do this, but I'm not particularly fond of that because you lose out on streak. But they do that to get the passive recovery on their front bar. You feel free to do this if you're comfortable with it. I like streak too much to ever give it up, to be perfectly honest with you. So I'm just plain never going to do it. Same thing being, I value minor protection more than the 20% stam recovery. Or at least I do at this moment. We will see how I feel in the future. And the last passive on the list, increase your max health by 8% while you have a Daedric Summon pet active. This would only apply if you had this ultimate up, because there's no pet that's worth summoning for this damn Sorc. There is none. And for our last class passives, increase your magic recovery by 10%. It's actually kind of useful for us with the amount of mag skills we use. Increase your physical and shock damage by 5%. Again, pretty useful. Increase your damage done to enemies by 1% for every 10% current health they have. So the way this basically works is this is a reverse execute. Against a full health target, I deal 10% more damage. Against a person who's only got 10% of his health left, I only deal 1%. So you're going to be a little lower. It's going to be less and less helpful the lower health they get, but it helps you break that initial barrier. It helps you really put them on the back foot. Plus, a heavy attack into a 10% damage buff Dawnbreaker feels really good, so trust me, this pass is worth getting. And finally here, increase your weapon and spell damage by 2% for each sorcerer ability slotted. Well, as you can see, not much on the front bar, unfortunately. It's just kind of how sorcerer bars work. But our back bar does get a nice little buff here. Normally 6%, currently 8% because I have this sitting here. Alrighty, so for weapon passives, you want to pick up all the two-hander passives. Increase stamina recovery after killing a target. You'll be doing that frequently. Charging up a heavy attack will cause your next direct damage attack used within 7 seconds to deal an additional 10% damage. This is why you want a heavy attack into your Dawnbreaker. Because now you've got 10% plus whatever Amplitude's giving you into that Dawnbreaker. It's going to hit like a truck, trust me. Plus, with the fact that you're Spriggans with a Maul, it's beautiful. Balance Blade, reduce the cost of your two-hander abilities by 15%. This is super, super useful. This keeps this pretty cheap. This keeps Executioner super cheap. And this keeps this fairly cheap. Good passive. You want to pick all these up, but I'm just going over why you'd use them. Now, this is the one that relates to your weapon. So, sword, increase your damage done by 6%. That could be super useful, but I do preference the Maul. Maul, cause your attacks to ignore 20% of your target's physical resistance. I find that more useful because on tanky targets, you're going to need that more than the raw damage. If you find yourself fighting a lot of squishier targets, however, the sword will probably outperform. Axe, grants your melee attack 16% chance to apply a bleed, dealing 6,700 damage over 6 seconds. I'm not particularly fond of axes at the moment. As a back bar weapon, they're great because they can be applied from your back bar to your front. But I'm not fond of them as my main hand weapon, so I prefer them all over that. Alright, and the last one, just your light and heavy attacks do AoE damage, which is really, really entertaining, by the way. And for dual wield, again, you just want to pick up everything in here, but I'm going to go over why. Increase the damage of your dual wield abilities by 20% against targets under 25, or 25% health. So that increases both this damage and your bleed, making this kind of like a pseudo-execute. Dual wield itself is a very good skill line for that. It does a lot of damage. Just keep this up, and this passive will help you out. Increase your weapon damage by 6% from your offhand. Doesn't really matter too much on this spec, but still take it anyway. Reduce the cost of dual abilities by 15%. Yep, pick that up. Gives you 50% damage bonus when attacking stunned, immobilized, disorient, or silenced enemies. We don't really feel this much because we're not on our back bar all that often. But still, it's worth it for when you're on your back bar because it buffs up your bleed damage, it buffs up your blade cloak damage, it buffs up your car's damage because it happens to cross over to the other bar. It's a good passive to have nonetheless. And this is the reason why I said I wanted the axes. I wanted the axes. Each axe gives you a melee attacks an 8% chance to bleed enemies for almost 7,000 physical damage over 6 seconds. Blade Cloak can proc this. I just want weapon abilities and your weapon abilities, I believe, and your light attacks can all proc that. So I'd really prefer that. I just haven't had the opportunity to farm the axes. For maces, each mace causes your attacks to ignore 10% of the enemy's physical resistances. This doesn't matter because of the fact that we're literally just back here to heal and apply a bleed, which ignores physical resist anyway. Sword, increase your damage done by 3%. That's the one chance that could be useful. That could be useful. And daggers, increase your weapon crit rating by... it doesn't say, but increases your weapon crit rating for each dagger equipped. That could also be useful as it would increase the amount your crit surge is proccing. But ideally, I'd want the axes. Alright, but those are the weapon passives that we are using. We are only in medium and heavy. You only need resolve, increase your resists, constitution, Gives you a bit more health recovery and gives you a little bit of magic stamina back every time you take damage. And Juggernaut, increase your max health by 2%. These are the only passes you need from Heavy. I have the rest from another build I was running. Medium, though, however, you want to take everything. Increase your weapon crit rating by 1972. This is just shy of 10%. It's like 9 point something percent increased crit. Very, very good. Increase your stamina recovery by 24% and reduce the cost of your stamina abilities by 12%. Very, very good passive. Again, just take everything in here, really. This is the only one you can ignore if you so desire. It's a sneak-related passive only. Reduce the cost of sneak by 42% and reduce the radar detection area by 30%. This is worthless to this build. This is honestly worthless to this build. You don't need this if you don't want it. Increase your weapon damage by 15%. Yes, take that. That is just free damage. It's amazing. And increase your movement speed bonus of sprint by 18% and then reduce the cost of dodge roll by 24%. This is a beautiful passive. This is honestly beautiful. We're able to dodge roll like a fiend despite how crappy our stamina recovery is. It's amazing. For world, like I said, we are a werewolf. I'm not using this at the moment, so I would just ignore this if you so desire. Psijic, only thing you need in here, the only thing, because of the fact we are using this ultimate, is you want this. And what this does is it gives us a nice little damage shield whenever we block. 2,500 in PvP. Slowly recharges after 10 seconds of not blocking. It's not a lot of damage, but it's just it's free mitigation. It's free mitigation. It's not showing up right now because here. That little bubble. As you can see, that little purple thing that pops up in my bar, it's just free health, basically. That's what you're going to treat it as. So, I'd pick up this passive. If you intend to use something like Crushing Weapon as your spammable, which is another good option if you so desire, or if you'd want to use Deep Thoughts, then you can look into the rest of these passives like Clairvoyance or Spell Orb if you're using Crushing Weapon, or Deliberation if you're using Deep Thoughts. They're all good passives, but they're only really useful if you're actually using the skills in this tree. For Undaunted, you're gonna want to get to level 9 Undaunted. I'm a little short right now, so you can max out these two passives. Free stats are free stats after all. And this is just a little extra cover if you happen to pick up a synergy while you're running through. Fighters Guild, pick up everything but Bounty Hunter, I believe. They are all good. Oh. Yeah, Intimidating Presence. You don't need this either. But Slayer increases your weapon damage by 3% for each Fighters Guild ability slotted. Dawnbreaker. Generate 9 ultimate whenever you kill an undead, Daedra, or werewolf. So vampires and doggies and BGs. Smack them real good with that. And Fighters Guild abilities deal 20% additional damage to undead, Daedra, or werewolves. Again, this is hilarious hitting a werewolf. So, pick up these passes here. You do not need Intimidating Presence, and you do not need Bounty Hunter. For Alliance War, you want to pick up Continuous Attack if you happen to be out in Cyrodiil. This gives you a nice little buff to all your recovery and your damage. You don't need this passive as we are not using a single ranged ability. But this passive right here, generate 20 ultimate whenever you kill an enemy player. This is freaking huge. This is why we can spam Dawnbreakers left and right. Pick up this passive as soon as you can. You can level the assault skill line from playing Battlegrounds, hanging out in Imperial City, or doing Cyrodiil, whatever your choice. But as soon as this is level 10, pick this up. Support, you actually need nothing in here as far as I'm aware, except for this. Reduce the time it takes to resurrect another player by 30%. It's the only passive that's even remotely useful for you, and even then you might not need it. So, up to you if you actually take this passive. Medicinal Use is the only passive in Alchemy you actually need, but I do happen to make my potions on this character, so I've maxed out the entire tree. But what you need to do is get Alchemy to 50 so you can get Medicinal Use up. What this does is when using potion, resulting effects last 30% longer, which means more stam recovery, more mag recovery, more health recovery. It's a very, very good, very, very good passive. You want to pick this up as soon as you can once you're level 50. And for race, we are a Dark Elf. Now, why am I a Dark Elf? Why am I a Dark Elf? For one, increase your weapon spell damage by 258. Ignore the spell damage, doesn't matter. But that's the same passive that orcs get, minus the spell damage. So, very, very nice damage buff there. Resist fire, honestly, kind of ignore this. It's nice, but it doesn't really mean anything. The real reason why we are a Dark Elf, besides from Ruination, is dynamic. Increase your max magic and your max stamina by 1875. This is a really, really good passive. This is a really Awesome passive. Increased stamina is always great, but the increased magic gives us more abilities to streak, more dark deals. Basically, we have a higher max pool, and paired with tri-step food, it's why we have a 15k mana pool. Works out really, really well for me. That being said, there are a lot of other races that can actually be used on this build. Orc can be translated to this build without a single change. You'll be tankier. You'll have a little less magic, about 1300 instead. And you'll have a little higher stamina, like an extra 125 stamina. But you'll be tankier. Kaji can be translated to this build pretty much directly. Nothing will change. Wood Elves, if you do a Wood Elf or a Red Guard, I would highly recommend swapping out to the Warrior Mundus Stone, as those two races are sustain races and will cover what you lost. So like I said, if you go Red Guard or Wood Elf, swap this to the Warrior, elsewise no change. And in the case of, say, a Nord, now this is the one that that could be interesting. You could run a Nord here. You'd be tankier. There's honestly nothing you can trade on this build that would make up for the loss, but being tankier could be super helpful. So that is entirely up to you. But as I said, basically any single race that gives max stam can work for this build. But Orc and Wood Elf translate the easiest, because Wood Elf just is the Warrior Stone, and Orc literally no change. The two of them translate really well to this build, and yeah. Alrighty, guys. So, anyways, I'm going to leave you off at this point with a Battleground game I had the other day. Starts off a little slow, but it gives you a rough idea of the playstyle. It's really, really fun, and you guys get to see some really cheeky Dawnbreaker steals, or kill steals. So, anyways, guys, I hope you enjoy the build. I hope you have fun with it, and yeah, I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.
Suffocate, everything they complicate, everything they steal your fate, every day, but you can't believe it. Take yourself far away from nothingness, million miles from emptiness. Suffocate, everything they complicate, everything they steal your fate, every day, but you can't believe it. Take yourself far away from nothingness, million miles from emptiness. Remember the days of the innocence before it came in waves. Remember the trust, it was blown away into oblivion. Remember love, remember hate, remember everything they said just to break you again. Remember all of your enemies, forever and ever they suffocate, everything they complicate, everything they steal your fate, every day, but you can't believe it. Take yourself far away from nothingness, million miles from emptiness, and leave it all behind you. Forget the decay and the endlessness of all of our mistakes. Forget all the blame and the apathy, and throw it all away. Forget the pain, forget the hate, forget all your enemies. They never will break you again. Suffocate, everything they complicate, everything they steal your fate, every day, but you can't believe it. Take yourself far away from nothingness, million miles from emptiness, and leave it all behind you. Suffocate, everything they complicate, everything they steal your fate, every day, but you can't believe it. Take yourself